You would be completely useless if you were suddenly dropped into the past. We all like to imagine that with our modern education and knowledge of history, we'd be like Ash from Army of Darkness, immediately revolutionizing society, inventing electricity 200 years early, and being hailed as a genius. But the truth is, most of us would be utterly embarrassingly useless. Despite having smartphones in our pockets with access to all human knowledge, most of us can't actually do much without modern infrastructure. We know things exist, but we don't know how to make them or even how they fundamentally work. So the first reason you'd be useless in the past is the enormous gap between knowing something exists and knowing how to create it. Sure, you know smartphones exist. You might even know they contain transistors, microchips, and lithium batteries. But could you actually build one from scratch? Do you know how to extract lithium from the earth? Could you create a microchip without modern manufacturing facilities? Of course not. I mean, what did Carl Sagan say about baking an apple pie from scratch? You gotta start with creating the universe. Most of our knowledge depends on vast infrastructure that took centuries to develop. We understand things at a consumer level, but not a creator level. This means that while you could tell people about amazing technologies from the future, you couldn't actually help them build any of it. Okay, and then even if we handwave the language issue, let's say you speak the language of whatever time period you land in what geographic region, but you'd still be faced with enormous cultural barriers. Modern speech is filled with references, idioms, and concepts that simply wouldn't exist yet. Imagine trying to explain something being like a broken record to someone who's never seen a record player, or saying something went viral to someone who doesn't understand germ theory. Our entire way of thinking is shaped by modern concepts. We think in terms of electricity, digital information, global communication, frameworks that wouldn't exist in pre-industrial societies. You'd constantly be reaching for metaphors and explanations that make zero sense to your audience. And that's before we even get to social norms. The way we interact with others today would be considered anywhere from bizarre to criminally offensive in most historical periods. Your casual attitude towards authority figures alone might get you imprisoned or worse. Imagine saying R.I.P. Bozo to a fallen monarch in the past. I don't know what would happen to you. The truth is, you wouldn't come off across as a sophisticated time traveler from the future. You'd probably seem like some babbling madman with no practical skills and just bizarre ideas. You know, another thing is that modern humans are remarkably fragile compared to our ancestors. We've been protected by modern medicine, sanitation, and food safety standards our entire lives. If you were dropped into medieval Europe, you'd immediately be exposed to dozens of pathogens your immune system has never encountered. Meanwhile, the locals have been building resistance to these diseases their entire lives. You might be taken out by what they consider a minor seasonal illness. And this works both ways. I mean, you're a walking biohazard to historical populations. You might be carrying microbes that your body handles fine, but could devastate an unexposed population. Think about Columbus and all of them, and even the fall of the Aztecs and the like. Congratulations, you just became a one-person plague vector. And then there's your physical condition. Unless you're regularly doing physical, intense labor, you're probably not going to be ready for the daily workload of pre-industrial life. Farming, blacksmithing, construction all require significant physical strength and endurance that most modern humans just don't have. Even something as basic as walking everywhere would be a shock to a lot of people. People regularly walk 20 plus miles a day when necessary. I mean, how's your endurance looking? You know, even traditionally respected professions like medicine would be severely limited. A modern doctor without antibiotics, anesthesia, imaging technology, or even basic sanitation would be working with one hand tied behind their back. Some of you might be thinking, well, I could teach them about germ theory or basic physics, but would you really explain it well enough to be useful? Most of us understand these concepts at the surface level based on what we learned in school. But could you derive the mathematical formulas for momentum? Could you explain exactly why hand washing prevents disease transmission at a microbiological level? Let's be honest, most of our knowledge is just awareness that something exists and not a very visceral understanding of how or why it works. The truth is that most of us would struggle severely if transported to the past. Our knowledge is built on generations of accumulated science and technology that we take for granted. We know that things work, but rarely how they work from first principles. This realization should actually give us more appreciation for human history. Each generation built upon the last, creating the foundation for our modern world, on some Avatar The Last Airbender vibes. No single person, not even a time traveler with a modern education, could replicate centuries of human innovation and discovery alone. The true geniuses were the people who advanced human knowledge without having Google or LLMs to help them. If you found this thought experiment type interesting, hit that subscribe button for more content like this, and let me know in the comments, what specific skill or knowledge do you possess that might actually be useful if you were sent back in time?
Hooray!